Facebook Live. So this one is for all of you out there. I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. We had a little video glitch, and so as people hopefully join on here again, we're going to get started. I see Shelly Albers is on today. Welcome. I'm R. Christian Minson, Director of the Breathwork Program here at Rythmia. Certified Transformational Breath Facilitator, Senior Trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation, speaker, author, co-author of this book back here, Align, Expand, and Succeed, Shifting the Paradigm of Entrepreneurial Success, which you can get here at Rythmia when you're here. Highly recommend it. And basically, I'm your catalyst for awakening and transformation. So welcome to everybody coming on. I'm just going to keep talking today, as we had a glitch that started us essentially 10 minutes late. So hopefully people get back on. Good. It looks like some people back. I want to mention that we have Breathwork Week coming up, November 17th. Greg Braden is our guest speaker here for the week. Amazing guy and personal friend. And all the ceremonies that week are breathwork ceremonies. So this is a perfect week if you can't do plant medicine, if you're medically unable, if you're just opposed to it, if you aren't sure about it, you can still get the power of Rythmia through this breathwork week. I also want to mention in November, I believe it's the week right after, is LGBTQ week. So if you belong to LGBTQ or are friendly to those and want to come out for that week, it's going to be a great week of LGBTQ solidarity and diving deep into the, I'd say into the personal issues that come from that community, that lifestyle. So first time this is happening, and it's going to be great. So welcome everybody. The topic today is living from the inside out, So this is really looking at an alternate perspective on our experience. Looking at really what the foundation of life is, and ultimately the foundation of our happiness. And so, this really dovetails into why this topic is important. We're so wrapped up in externals often, necessary and unnecessary. Our necessary externals, our job, our family, our social circles, all these things take our focus and easily get us wrapped up in life and all those circumstances. And then we got our distractions, the things that really aren't important, but movies and entertainment and drama in our life, and all this especially is sometimes it takes us away from the true core of who we are. The foundation of this talk today really comes, I didn't mention in the beginning, but I'm a former monk. I was a monk for 10 years of my life, living a spiritual existence, learning to live a spiritual existence, and still learning, but got a lot of experience in those 10 years. And so all of my perspective really is shaped by that experience. And Merit, first time listening. Hello from Norway. Excellent. I used to live in Norway. So hello to all you Norwegians out there. Anyway, where my perspective comes from this time of me being a monk and really living a spiritual life. And so the real foundation of this is that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. I've said this a lot on Facebook Live because it really is a foundational tenet to understanding life from the right perspective. It's like looking at an elephant from behind and thinking that's what an elephant looks like. You got to look at it from the front to really see the features of an elephant. So when we're when we look at life from just the purely physical aspect of life, we're only seeing the surface, and maybe it's like seeing the top of an iceberg. We see just a little bit of it. Most of it is really underneath the surface, and this is really most of our life is happening on this internal level. The external is just what we see, and so what we tend to focus on, but it's really probably the least important part of our experience. The goal of our life, really, from this perspective, is the evolution of our consciousness. That the purpose we are here on this physical plane. Some people consider it a school. Some people consider it a game. Whatever it is to evolve ourselves further. If you take a clue from nature all around, nature is continuously in evolution. What is that Darwin theory of survival of the fittest, really, is a continuous evolution of coming into betterness, being more adaptable, more beautiful, more resilient, more of who you truly are. This is the evolution that's happening in life. And so all of our problems, all of our challenges on this physical level are really rooted in our ignorance of this spiritual dimension of our being. And when we really get that, it can shift things amazingly so that we can live a much more happy, much more content, and much more satisfying life. So in the hierarchy of needs, we have physical needs, we have emotional needs, we have mental needs, but it's our spiritual needs that we need to really address first and foremost, and then often those other needs get taken care of without even having to do anything extra. So when we talk about the outside and inside, let's kind of define that the outside is the things that we do externally, the things we put our attention on, our job, our livelihood, our family, our friends, the social circles that we find ourselves interacting in, all of our relationships, our emotions. One way to define the external is it's usually pretty ego-driven. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. The ego is one of the tools that we use to navigate this external reality. But once again, it is, it is the driver of the vehicle. It's not the owner of the vehicle. Right? It's driving around the soul, who's sitting in the back wanting to go to the destination. So another thing that defines sort of our external experience is drama. Drama, if you're involved in any kind of drama, that is an external oriented perspective on life. And it's the drama that both makes life somewhat interesting, but also makes it a heck of a challenge at times. And it's a drama that can get you wrapped up in believing that this is so important, that this physical reality is all there is, or that if something doesn't happen in this physical reality, then our life can be forever impacted. So I want to speak out in contrast to that perspective. Nadia is here this week, and she's joined on, and Jennifer Sedini, she's coming as one of our guest speakers. And Jennifer, if you tell me when, if you type in, I'll announce that for you. So welcome. The inside is really, when we're talking about the inner life, we're really talking about life in communion with our spirit, life in seeking the connection to God, to the higher self, to the source of all creation. It's much more of an energetic experience. It's really an experience of consciousness itself. Consciousness can exist and does exist beyond physical reality. So physical reality isn't a condition of consciousness, but consciousness is a condition for physical reality, or for our experience of reality has to come through consciousness. So this is an inner quality. Intuition is really an expression of our inner self. So soul-driven, really, as opposed to ego-driven, which is the external. And this is what we're really trying to do. Again, the soul, the ego is the driver in the what we call it, in the Cadillac there, but the soul is the VIP that's sitting in the back, saying where it wants to go. It's not like the ego gets to decide where it's taking the soul, though sometimes in our lives, when we're very externally oriented, that's what's happening. Our ego is deciding where to take the soul. It's like it's not listening to the soul saying, hey, I wanted to go downtown and you're taking me out to the country. So the qualities really of an inner life are peace, contentment, happiness, tolerance, being able to endure, in a disciplined way, endure the conditions of life, as well tolerate various energies from other people, other experiences. Jack, can you speak to not judging your insides by other people's outsides? Can you explain that a little bit more, Jack? And I will definitely try to do that. I'm not completely clear on what you mean by that. So how do we tune in to our insides? And the first point is, don't take life too seriously. Recognize that on some level, this external reality is set up, like I said, as a game or as a lesson, a school. And we can, just like in life, we can take our games very seriously or in our schooling very seriously. But think about it, especially for those of you who are now out of school or have stopped playing those games. How important were they really? I mean, to some level, there's an importance, but don't take it too seriously. It would be like continuing to worry about how you did in school now 20 years later after graduating. That's what I mean by taking life too seriously. Here we continue to buy into, we have a lesson that happens in life, and then we continue to dwell on that lesson. Didn't go the way I wanted it. I should have done this differently or whatever, and we'll keep rotating on this ad infinitum, and it just kind of brings us down. Jack, self-criticism via comparison, very common and non-productive. I think I did a Facebook Live on this. I can't remember what the title is now right off, but you can look up some of the archives and you might find this. But that comparison is a very externally oriented thing. Think about it. When we compare somebody, very rarely do we actually know what's going on inside that person, right? So we see this facade of who this person is, and doesn't mean that that's not part of who that person is, but it's never the whole story. And we say, well, look at that. They're so much more athletic than I am, and therefore I'm not good enough, or they're so much more skilled at speaking or something, But if we're to look at the whole picture, usually, people who are good at something often struggle at something else, and to recognize that what we're comparing ourselves against. Here's one perspective to look at. Oftentimes when we're comparing, it is a quality that's important to us and that we actually already have to a certain degree. And that's why we actually are focused on it, why it's even in our consciousness, because because we actually share this quality, and we're actually probably pretty advanced in this quality, but then we look at somebody more advanced at it, and because it's an important quality to us, we start to make those comparisons. So if you start from that perspective and say, well, this quality, this is something that I already possess, and I'm already somewhat proficient at, and then and look the other way. Look at the masses of people that you actually could compare yourself against, and see that you're elevated in the levels of this particular quality or subject we're talking about. But in a deeper level, again, this self-criticism is really an external reflection. We're comparing ourselves to something external. The inner game, the real trick to this is to go into the inner game, where we are all equal. We are all souls made of divine mind stuff. We are equal in the creation of each one of us as a unique individual, the expression of that divine energy. Now, of course, we all are going to have that unique expression, so some of us are going to be better at some things than others. But so the real solution to self-criticism is to go ahead and look at who you are, cultivate who you are as a soul, and recognize again that everything external, including who you're looking at and comparing yourself to, is part of your test, part of your schooling to evolve your consciousness. So back to, so basically some of these ways to how to tune into the inside answer this question as well about how to negate or neutralize self-criticism, Jack. So hopefully take this in. So don't take life too seriously. Recognize that whatever happens to you there's a deeper lesson there. It is everything that happens to us evolves our consciousness, and uniquely those things that are most difficult, once we get past all the smoke and get some distance from them, we turn around and look and see that they really were the most profound moments of our lives. The most difficult moments of our lives are usually where we make the greatest leaps and bounds, the greatest inroads to true happiness and true perspective on what we're here to do and such. It doesn't mean it's not difficult going through them at the time, but when you're going through them, to have that perspective that that everything is a lesson evolving you forward, can give you a chance to step back and not take the external circumstance so seriously. So other ways to really hone in on this inner game are, I've mentioned this in many Facebook Lives, and this comes again directly from my experience as a monk, what I call the 5 daily habits of highly spiritual people, which are what I distilled down as the 5 things that we normally did, that we did on a daily basis when I was privileged to be able to live a very focused spiritual life, and I didn't have to deal with getting the car maintenance, and didn't have a family to take care of, and didn't have to pay the phone bill at the end of the month. So even though we have to do these things out here in the external world, we really, it again is those things that can get us caught up in the outer life, and we want to start realigning our perspective to see the inner life, so that these outer life things make more sense and don't get our goat, so to speak. Don't make us overly upset or emotional. Very young and on spot, bro. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate that. Hey, Brian Austin. So the first and probably the most profoundly effective thing, the number one habit of highly spiritual people, is to meditate, or to to develop some habit of connection or communion with your inner self. So this is what meditation really is at its core, is a quieting of the external. So the way my spiritual teacher would talk about it, we descend into the body through the medulla oblongata and go down the spine of chakras, where our energy expresses uniquely through each of these chakras. And it's the outer expression through the senses that has us wrapped up in the external world. And because we perceive everything with the senses, that's what we think is real. When we sit to meditate, we turn the searchlight of those senses back inward. And our objective is to draw the energy back up into the spine, out, the medulla, and there we reunite with our divine self, or the oneness of creation, reunite with the source. And that source is us, each of us, again, a unique expression of that source. So to meditate is to tune in, is to really quiet your experience of the outer world. St. Paul in the Bible said, "Verily I die daily." And what he was talking about when he said that was really a technique of meditation or something similar, where he went within and he died to the external world, where you basically are temporarily removed from the external existence so that you can anchor yourself in that divine self. And one of the things I want to mention here is you do not have to have a profound experience in meditation to start to build a foundation of connection to your inner self. In fact, it's the daily practice of doing this over and over that sinks the pylons of your consciousness essentially deeper into the bedrock of your soul, or who you truly are. An alternative to meditation, as I'm the breathwork director here and teaching breathwork for 12 years, is breathwork. Breathwork is a powerful technique in the breathwork that I teach, transformational breath, a powerful technique for connecting yourself with your higher self. As the fundamental idea is that we're circulating abundant amounts of life force energy. It's that life force energy which is the fundamental particle of our soul, of our spirit. And the more life energy we start to circulate, the more aligned we become. We're magnetically drawn or entrained to a higher conscious way of being and thinking. And so that starts to be our habit. We're essentially, through meditating, through this daily practice, developing a habit of bringing ourselves back to our foundation of who we truly are. Again, spirit beings having a physical experience, not physical beings having a spiritual experience. The important thing, the subtle vibrations as we get in tune with this higher self, it's really a much more subtle experience of life. And why we need to meditate, why we need to quiet down, is because life is very noisy. Life is very chaotic. There, waves. It's like trying to tune into somebody whispering while you're at a rock concert, right? All this noise vibration is inundating you, and you're trying to hear this person tell you, the secret to life, or what have you. It's very difficult to hear when all this noise is going on. So by meditating, tuning in, you're shutting off the noise. You're going within, so that voice can then amplify, that you can hear that clearer. And it does come, not necessarily as words and all that, but as a sense, as a beingness. Checking in. Introspecting is the next habit that's really important. By introspecting, basically you're reviewing your life, ideally on a daily basis. Like I said, these were daily habits, but to at least periodically check in and look over what you've been doing over the last day, or the last few days, or whatever, and see trends, recognize that where especially where drama starts to come up in your life, that this is often caused by old experiences that haven't been dealt with fully, and they continue to influence your life. It's like having leftovers in your refrigerator that you don't eat, and yet they start to mold, and they start to smell up the refrigerator, and maybe even affect the other foods that are in there. This is what happens with experiences that we have that we haven't fully integrated or fully allowed ourselves to bring to completion. These may be old traumas in our life that were too severe to really deal with when they happen. These may be just experiences that we've chosen to repress or suppress for whatever reason we thought was important at the time. But now, again, these experiences start to fester. So what that tends to do is causes you to react, to be reactive. And what does react mean? If you look at the word react, to act again. What a reaction is basically a reenactment of this old experience that hasn't fully played out, right? So if we have an experience that we haven't fully integrated, it starts to gnaw at our consciousness, and then when an external situation is right, usually there's a trigger, something triggers us, we react. We bring that old experience up and we play it out again. Now this usually creates the drama in our life, and in that it often leads to misery and upset. But it can be the good news if you understand what's going on, that this energy is actually coming up to say, hey, you haven't dealt with me yet. So if you would consciously look at me, which is what we're talking about, introspecting, so consciously looking at, what is this energy? Where is it coming from? When did I first start to feel this way? And what was that experience? And when we can finally come to that experience and give it the space to be acknowledged and dealt with, all of a sudden that energy evaporates. It's like it leaves. It's like steam. You blow out on a cold day and you watch it evaporate. It's gone. It used to be in there, but now, it's expressed and it's gone. The other thing to do is recognize that these feelings that come up are messengers. They are the messengers to help you recognize what's still holding you back. Messengers to help you evolve, to become better, smarter, happier, more in tune. And so introspecting really is getting at, what is the message? What is the message that came out of this experience today? When this person yelled at me today, when I had this negative exchange with somebody, when I just felt off, what is this really communicating to me? And then once you understand the message, you usually have a clear direction on how to handle that, what to do with that energy. Studying is the third dimension of these 5 habits. To study really helps you get out of your own mindset and start to get into the mindset of those you're studying. And I recommend studying people, in this case, under this topic, people who have developed a healthy, strong inner life. So spiritual masters, Michael Beckwith is here this week, for instance. Michael Beckwith is a great one. Greg Braden, who I mentioned in the beginning, he's a great one. My spiritual teacher, Paramahansa Yogananda. There's plenty of resources out there to find. You want to start to really let their thoughts percolate in your consciousness, so that when your old thoughts that usually are stimulated by reactivity start to come to the surface, you got something to compare them against, and something to say, do I want to go down that same reactive route, or do I want to think or act more like these people who I admire and I've been studying? Another habit that may seem out of context, or it's a spiritual habit, but also externally oriented to a certain degree, is to exercise. To exercise regularly. As Yogananda said, usually if you could exercise daily to the point of sweating, what this is doing really is burning off excess toxins, ridding your body of toxins and the things that down in the body level start to agitate your nerve endings. This is really what's happening when we've got these toxins in our body. And for that reason, right diet and exercise go hand in hand for helping us to be more, to focus more on the internal life, because when you, these toxins are like, think about this, for instance, sugar. Sugar is a crystal, actually. It's a crystalline structure. So you eat a lot of sugar, and that sugar gets deposited then, like in your knee joints, your elbow joints, or whatever. And then when you move, it's those little crystals are actually, sharp edges are poking into your joints. And this is why you feel, one of the reasons why you can feel pain in your joints and pain in your body, because this toxic buildup of excess sugar and things are agitating the nerve endings. And that keeps you very physically focused. When your nerves are agitated, it's very hard to focus on anything else. It's not impossible, but it takes a tremendous amount of energy to overcome that. So by right diet, right exercise, you're really giving yourself a chance to burn off a lot of excess toxins and a lot of excess nervous energy that may keep you externally focused, so you can focus on that inner life. A big part of sort of tuning in inside is forgiveness as well. Forgiveness really comes, as we start to look at our lives and seeing that, seeing what's happening. That a lot of times we'll see the bigger picture. People we've had a grudge with, people who aren't, that we're not in alignment with. We start to see from a different perspective where their actions are coming from. Often they're not even aware of what they're doing, and their actions are usually reactions to things, traumas, and things that weren't going well in their lives. So we start to develop a lot more compassion. When we forgive, it basically, we release ourselves from the orbit of this drama. So think about this. As long as we haven't forgiven, there's this experience that we keep revolving around. It's like we orbit around this experience and we keep saying, we identify with that and say, this was wrong, and so I am justified in feeling, like this isn't right, and this person should pay for this, and whatever kind of feelings we have around it. But as long as we keep having those feelings, it just keeps us spinning around the orbit of this experience. When we forgive, we basically say, yes, this was an experience, but I'm releasing it, and therefore I can get out of this orbit and now get into traveling into new experience, a new territory of life. Holding that grudge keeps you locked in the outer world. Breath work, again, is another powerful tool for helping you to forgive. It really, as you are working this breathwork process, it dredges up these old experiences and allows you to shift your experience of them in a unique way. The energy comes up, the energy gets released, and the energy gets diffused. And then there's really nothing left but just neutral experience that you don't have any energy around, and so it no longer has a hold on you. In other words, it no longer keeps you locked in this external plane. And then the other habit, let's see, did we do 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. And the fifth habit is basically service. To serve others, to get out of yourself by focusing on how you can better the situation for somebody else. That doesn't even mean that you have to do anything differently. Just do it from a different perspective. How can what I'm doing help somebody in their lives, and really focus on helping others? By doing that, you get out of your own mind, your own game, and that, again, helps you to not take your life so seriously, allowing you to see as well, when you're serving others, you rarely recognize the unity of all people, that in serving others, you're ultimately serving yourself, and that brings you a deeper inner satisfaction and happiness, which is, again, the qualities of living from an inner perspective of life. So, the final thing I'll say on that is that the Rythmia program is really a powerful way to get in touch with your inner self as well. Usually people are coming here burdened with problems, burdened with worries, burdened with direction in their lives. Again, all this is keeping you externally focused, where people are coming here with this external focus. Life is crowding in on me. What am I going to do? And then they go through the program, get in touch with their inner self. In Rythmia speak, we call it merging with your soul. One of the 3 major intentions. Show me who I become, merge with my soul, and heal my heart. And to merge yourself with your soul really means to get in touch with who you are at that deeper internal level. And one of the amazing parts of the program is, and why there's so many miracles that happen here, is because people finally get in tune with who they truly are, and they see their divinity often for the first time, and it dissolves the importance a lot of times of the physical or the external issues that have been going on. Now, again, granted, these issues still need to be dealt with. Often they still need to be resolved, but instead of going in with stress and anxiety and if this doesn't happen, my life is over and such, recognizing that this is just a temporary blip in a long, pretty much eternal existence, and that no matter what the outcome of that particular experience is, your true nature is still rooted in happiness, in peace, contentment, and tolerance, and that reframes everything that's going on in your life. So this is one of the reasons why this Rythmia program is so effective. So that's kind of all I really have to say on this subject today. I just wanted to frame that, what if you started living your life from the inside out? Think about how less reactive you would be, how life would be different the less you reacted, and the more you had the ability to respond, or responsibility. Somebody, I think it was Naja, didn't you, if you're still on, made that awareness the other night in ceremony. The word responsibility, the ability to respond, which means you're not affected by these energies that cause you to react anymore. Reaction is the antithesis to responding. Reaction happens like a knee-jerk. Respond is able to, you might still feel the reaction coming up, but you're able to take a breath. You're able to distance yourself momentarily from any kind of reaction, and you can then assess the situation and choose how to move forward in an intelligent manner or a responsible manner. So this ultimately leads to more contentment, especially contentment in the midst of the storms of life, which will happen. I can guarantee that life doesn't become any less turbulent just because you start to develop an inner game, but it's like being on the ocean in the middle of a storm. You ever, or if you ever there, even on a day where the waves are very choppy, you go out. If you're on the surface of the water, you're like tossed and turned, and you're buffeted by the wind. If it's raining, you are affected by that. But if you were to dive under the water, even 10 feet under the water, even if the storm is raging above, it's calm, it's quiet, it's peaceful. And so this is the idea. The storms are still going to happen, but the way that you experience that same external experience is from a different, calmer, quieter, more relaxed space. So all this is available to you the more you start working on living from the inside rather than the outside. And ultimately, this equates to more evolution, that you're continuing to evolve your life, which, again, from the spiritual perspective, is the purpose of life. So with that, Edgar's saying, I need to rewatch this one. Good one. Thank you, Edgar. And that's a good reason why we have the recordings, so you can watch them over and over again. Amanda saying love from Denver. So at this point, got a few minutes left before I usually sign off. If anybody wants to say anything or ask any questions, feel free to do so in the chat bar. While doing this, I will remind you of Breathwork Week happening November 17th, 2019 here at Rythmia, with Greg Braden being our guest speaker that week. LGBTQ week happening right after that, the 24th of November. And what else? Any other things that, just to say, if you want to friend me on Facebook, you can find me under the name R. Christian Minson, R like in Rythmia, R. Christian Minson. Always send me a note saying, hey, I saw you on Rythmia Live, or whatever message you want to give me, along with your friend request. That'll ensure that I actually respond to that request. So Sheila's saying, I've been reacting to things. I'm so affected by people at work, even at home with my sister and my mom. It's been awful. So great realization there, Sheila. Did any of these things resonate with you as a way to shift your ability to react, to understand that your reactions are, these people are triggering something that's in you that's coming up, and you are reacting. You're acting out that old experience that still hasn't been resolved. And as soon as you realize that, you can take care of that experience, resolve it, like the steam coming out of your breath, and then you have this space now to respond, to say, these are issues that I have to deal with, but I don't have to, it doesn't have to alter the way I feel or the way that my peace and equilibrium. Jack says, many thanks for your time and insights, much appreciated, and thanks for your questions earlier there, Jack. Jeannie Dina Payne joined. Hello from Romania, Doran. Jack, could you give us a brief bio of yourself? Sure. And David, what's the weather like? Hot and sunny, a little rainy. It's rainy season, but we haven't had a lot of rain this year for rainy season. Dina says it's good to see you. Hi. Kenneth, hey, says hi. Hello. Sheila, hi. How do I find out what it is? Meaning the things that you're reacting to. I'd say go back and rewatch this again and get into those 5 habits of highly spiritual people, which will start to give you insight into especially the point I made on introspecting. by looking at what's going on, starting to dissect it, seeing, when did I first feel this same kind of energy? So that's the first way to do it, Sheila. Feel what the energy you're feeling, you're reacting to in your work or your sister or whatever. And when did I first feel this way? What was the experience that caused me to feel this way and from the very beginning? And that usually is the experience that hasn't been resolved. And then you can work with that and let it go. And then you no longer have that energy with you. So a brief bio of me. Who asked that? One of you. Anyway, so I was a monk for 10 years of my life. Then I've been a breath worker for the last 12 years, traveled all over the world to offer the techniques of transformational breath for healing of body, emotions, mind, and soul. I was invited to Rythmia as a substitute breath worker at a time when they needed it early on, and just a year into Rythmia's existence. At the end of that month that I spent there, Jerry, our CEO, liked the way I worked and asked me if I wanted a job, which I graciously accepted. And now I've been here at Rythmia for the last year and 9 months, directing the breathwork program, as well as helping coach and counsel people over the hill, getting them up to their ceremonies every night and helping them shape their perspective, seeing their experience, and much of what I teach here with in these Facebook Lives to recognize who they are at a core level, so that they can reframe the experiences they're having to see that their lessons and their tests to get them to evolve to the next level. So that's a brief bio of who I am. Also an author and speaker. I've co-authored this book back here, Align, Expand, and Succeed, which is about merging consciousness and business. You can get that book here at Rythmia, and I encourage it when you come. Let's see. Again, saying hi, great, thanks. Let's see, David, see you in 8 days, great. Make sure you, can you list the 5 habits again? So the 5 habits of highly spiritual people: meditation, some kind of communion to lock yourself into the foundation of your inner self. Introspection, to review the course of your actions in your day and start to dig deeper into the motivations behind them and what you could have done differently if you didn't like what you did. Studying the masters of whatever it is you were wanting to be a master of. In this case, I'd recommend the masters of people who have developed a deep internal life. 4, right exercise and diet, taking care of the physical vehicle, because the toxins that we put into it agitate the nerve centers and cause you to make it difficult for you to go within. So it forces you to stay external, and then you feel agitated and you feel upset. And then the 5th one is service to others. By serving others, you recognize the greater self of who you are. You're not just this little self, but you are everything. And you get out of yourself by focusing on somebody else. You get out of your little problems, and oftentimes you see that people have a lot bigger problems than you do. So hopefully that is clear. Cindy, can't wait to make it out to Rythmia. Good, get here quick. Jeff Clark, welcome. Louise, what type of philosophy is implemented in Rythmia? Basically the philosophy, I'd say the philosophy of you have the power to change your life. We use tools to open your consciousness: breath work, plant medicine, yoga, inspirational classes, deep sea cleanses, dead sea cleanses, colon cleansing, the healthy food. The philosophy is really that one of imparting a healthy lifestyle, and one saying that you are you are ultimately in control of your existence. And once you realize that, you can let go of some of these victim mentality experiences. You recognize that what's been holding you back is unresolved experience from the past. So we really work to release those traumas, to release those and integrate those unexpressed experiences, and then giving you a whole new lease on life. And Edgar, where did you grow up? I grew up all over the world. I was born into a military family, so Alabama was the first place on the planet I entered. I didn't stay there that long. Went to Oklahoma, Canada, Kansas, Texas, Oslo, Norway. So again, all you Norwegians, Scandinavians out there, I'm a fan. Back to the US, I went to Virginia, Northern Virginia, DC area. Went to college, university out in St. Louis, and then finished in Colorado, where I spent 5 years. That was my last years under the roof of my folks, and they settled in Colorado. I moved on to California, where I settled in the San Diego area, Encinitas. A couple years into that, I became a monk for 10 years. Went to training, then went up to Los Angeles, is where I spent most of my time as a monk. And then when I left the order, I returned to Encinitas, and that's been my home for the last 12 years before coming to Rythmia, where I now live in Costa Rica. So I've been around the block, been around the planet a little bit. So, though, if you want the bigger picture, supposedly I come from the Pleiades, the star system way out there. Somebody once told me that that's my seed soul came from there. The first incarnation that ever existed as me came from way out there. So supposedly that's a higher consciousness civilization. So I must have gotten kicked out to have to come here to Earth. So maybe I have a little extra lessons to learn, or I'm a hard case when it comes to Pleiadian wisdom. So hopefully that answers the question there for you, Edgar. And for everybody else, it looks like we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to sign off saying namaste from me, R. Christian Minson, here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center. Come on down, experience the attainment of a miracle, which 94% of the people who come here say they get. And even if you're part of that other 6%, it's an experience, a life experience. Namaste. Until next week.